So, hello. We are back for Poker.com's Guerrilla coaching night with Aarnimetsa. Now we are having a win from a $2.5 game, 180 men from Kauris84, and he wrote that we can also look through the final table only. And I think that's smart, because in the final table we can see where most of the money moves. And in these games it's going to be that there is going to be 27 players paid.
You're still on a break.
27 players paid. And and as Kauris probably sees this, I got said that I'm still on a break, but I'm not. And Kauris says that nice to see your stats on my database. Actually, you don't see your stats in my database because I made a new database for tonight. So those stats are the stats that you are having on this tournament only. And these are just going to be... I don't think that the HUD stats are going to help us that much in this game. And repo... No, I just can't confirm it now because it would take some time to look through it. It's just that if you have not sent it so it works in a format that works, then we are just going to skip it. And I'm going to tell you for the next time, so after this session I'm going to look through the repo submission if it was correctly sent. But we are starting the final table. On average we should start this with, there's 270,000 chips, so the average chip stack is about 30,000. We are a bit less than that, so it should be an interesting challenge. And we are doing the same as with the other Guerrilla coaching, that we are going to go through the uninteresting hands quickly so that we can use more time with the more interesting hands. And that's, with limp and a raise, it's going to be a fold. With these stack sizes we can't play that much for flop equity. Especially in a three-way pot. And Callian said that it would be ironic if someone would send me a hand history. Yeah, especially if it would be me doing something really stupid. And in this Jack-10 suited, Jack-10 offsuit, it's going to be a shove if you are getting to it unopened from the button. I think even from a cutoff it's going to be fine. Perhaps even hijack, but on that situation when there are two callers already, it's going to be an easy fold. 7-6 off, I think it's going to be too weak. 7-6 suited, we could shove, it's going to be solid enough, but 7-6 off, nope, good fold. And this ace-jack off is going to be a shove. It's going to be an easy shove, and I think ace-10 off would be as well. And somewhere around ace-8 suited or something. We are getting a caller and hitting godly on the flop. Ace-6 suited, I think it's going to be a bad hand to be calling. Even though there are some hands in our range that this opponent is flipping against, most of our range is playing too well against ace-6 suited. So I think it's a mistake from the Teknegoro. So this shove is perfectly fine and his call is not, so. And there is some justice. And excellent fold against the largest stack on the table. And Kauris asked, maybe ace-10 suited would be a good call. I think like the range to shove here is something like king jack suited, queen jack suited. Then there's going to be king queen off. And the aces I said earlier, and pretty much any pocket pair. And I'm still unsure with ace 10 suited. Let's go through this hand quickly with Hold'em Resources calculator. And let's have a custom. This is for 180 men's final table, the price structure. I'm just basically going to run it with the Nash ranges for the remaining players and... Oh well, we are having a wider range than I thought. I thought ace-8 suited would be about the cutoff, but it's going to have every suited ace. And a lot more suited kings. And against that kind of a range, ace-10 suited would be practically on the edge of calling. And if we are going with the tighter range I said earlier on, against that kind of a range, I think then we are getting something like... Okay, ace-10 suited is not a bad call, but not a great call either, so... It's not a good call, it's not a bad call, it's a break-even call. So I think that's pretty well done on Kauris if he thinks that ace-10 suited would be a call. And ace-6 suited is just burning money in that situation. And Calleon, yeah, running with one-step FGS with this many players on the table. Because it would take forever to calculate otherwise. We actually got through those hands already. And Korpistor, yeah, ace-10 suited is the first pretty safe hand. It's like one of those hands that are playing well, especially if your opponent's calling range will include every pocket pair and pretty much every suited ace, because then ace-10 suited is dominating enough of your opponent's range to be a good hand. And in this situation we are having some ICM implications in the final table, but not a lot. And we are getting some crappy hands. And this is some of those more interesting situations. And if I'm seeing a player that's 69/38, that even when he has the biggest stack, I'm going to shove this all day, any day. I'm thinking that this opponent will just have so many weak hands in his limping range that he's going to fold a lot. And even when he's going to call, he's not going to be in a good spot. Always. And we shove, we get called. Our opponent limp called with king 10 off. That's horrible play. Horrible play. And we get rewarded again for good play. Our opponent gets punished by bad play. It's like Justice Day today in this final table. I think this is one of those first of some more interesting hands. I think this is a hand that you want to min raise. This guy is having such a big stack behind you, and this guy is just a maniac. So you want to get the money in with eights, and you can induce in here. I think shoving this is a mistake. It's like it's going to be plus EV, but I don't think it's the most plus EV option to take. So I think that's the first play that I disagree with Kauris in this final table. And I think that that's still a plus EV play, but I don't think that's the best play. In here we are having pretty large stack sizes. I think this is not profitable to shove, but it's going to be very profitable to min raise. I think opponents in general are going to fold too much against min raises in these situations. And very nice min raise, increase your stack size, don't risk a lot, great. And Callion said ICM probably not too big to induce versus small blind. The ICM situation is going to be just, it's going to be way less than a general sit and go, so we can induce with a lot more hands in MTTs than we can in sit and goes generally. But when we are getting three-handed, it's going to be about the same than in the three-handed. Or it's going to be about the same than in six-handed, six-mux sit and goes, so that's probably that's one of those games that you should try to learn to play if you are playing a lot of MTTs. It helps with the final three-handed and two-handed immensely. Easy fold. And with something like, I think if you are having pocket sevens or better and a solid looking player shoves here, I think it's going to be, most of the time it's going to be a weak pocket pair. And so you should call here with pocket sevens or better. I think something like ace queen suited, or I think ace jack suited and something like ace queen off in here. And good call. And Kauris, maybe I looked at this Technogor is tilted and I don't have to min raise eights. I see wrong line. I think if the guy that's tilted, if you are against a tilted guy, you want to min raise because you want him to monkey tilt and you want him to shove his chip stack to you, so you want to give the guy that's tilted, you want to give him the opportunity to tilt his chips away. And I think this is one of those situations that when we are having about 20 big blinds, this is something that you can also defend with, because there are antes and there are going to be... Depends on how aggressive this guy is as an opener, and we don't have any stats on him, so not a lot. Not a lot of stats on him, and if you don't have any stats on him, folding is also fine. And the Fish King opens. We are about 40 big blinds deep, so we are having plenty of depth in our stacks. I think that this is probably a hand that would be best played as 3-bet, and that's going to be a 3-bet and fold to a 4-bet and 3-betting small, so 3-bet to around 12,500 to 14,000, and I think that's going to be good. I think calling is okay as well, but I think it's just better if you are. And I like this check on the flop a lot, because then you are giving opportunity for this guy to give his chips to you. And when the flop goes through as a check-check, then I think you should bet for value in the on the turn, and somewhere around 40% to 50% of the pot would be fine. And that's 50% of the pot. And on the river, I think that I think that the optimal play is to bet small again, because then you can induce your... And then it's also, you can induce your opponent to come over to top with a bluff, such as a failed flush draw. and you are giving your opponent more chance to make a mistake in here. So I don't think that shoving here is optimal. You are pretty much, when you are shoving here, you are getting value from weaker kings. You might even get someone to call with something like ace-10 or queen-10 or jack-10, but that's rare. And I think against your opponent's range, this is something that you are then also... It's not horrible in a way that it's not that you are also only isolating yourself against a better hand, but it's an easy call for your opponent with a better hand than yours, and you are getting value from quite a few weaker hands. If you are betting smaller in here, you can make your opponent to bluff in here with a complete zero equity hand that you couldn't make the opponent, or that the opponent will never call with, and also you are getting called more often. If you are betting something like 10,000 chips in here, you are going to get called with some greedy 7s or 10s a lot more often than if you shove here. And Calleon said that flop is usually not c-bet light on a three-way pot, by decent opponent at least. And I think it's going to be a slight mistake to think that in $2.5 games our opponents would be decent. And I think the river bet should be small in size because the opponent's stack size is so low that we would want to bet small that our opponent will think that he would have fold equity on you more probably than if you are betting bigger. And Baba Booey, yeah, I think that river would be bet small and call any, because there should be bluffs, and there will also be hands that opponent thinks that he's shoving for value, and there will be also weird hands like something like a 7 or a 10 that opponent turns into a bluff but not knowing that he turns it into a bluff. And Corpus versus a reg, I really like that play. Yeah, reg might be thinking that if you are shoving the river and overbet shoving the river, reg might be thinking that, hey, this opponent's line makes no sense, and call you even lighter. But I think in general you are getting more out of your opponents if you are making them have an opportunity to raise you. I think this is an easy min raise. I think this is way too good of a hand to not min raise in here. So I think that when we are three-handed, it all comes down to aggression. It's going to be what you are stealing now, you are going to own later. So this is going to be a spot that you want to be stealing wide. Because when it gets three-handed, if you are even a slight bit needy, you are against one good player. One good player absolutely cleans house against two passive players. So that's something that ace-7 off from the button. I don't think in a 9-max table folding ace-7 off if it comes unopened to you makes sense. And when it's three-handed, you'll need to... I think like about the optimal would be to... Or optimal and easy would be to bet around 40%. 40% about on the button, and we can go really wide on the small blind. Five-seven off is not the In here, 6-jack suited, I think it's going to be best if you are checking behind. You can still have some value and you are in position, so you can make a position play later on. And check folding that flop is okay. I think something like Jack-8 off is going to be one of those hands that you want to bet when you are three-handed and you are on the button. You want to open Jack-8 off. It's going to be a solid hand and it plays well. And Kauris to Jack-6 suited, I would start pressuring preflop as chip leader. You are having such a short chip lead at that spot, so you are practically equal with the opponent that you are having. I'm thinking it's going to be fine either way. That are you going to take a more pot control line by just checking it behind? And it also depends a lot on the tendencies of the fish king. And Kauris says actually quite well that you need a reason to fold preflop that button and not a reason to open. That's actually really well said. And king queen off. Call 3-bet. 3-bet is better, I think. 3-betting small. 3-bet shoving this would be pretty horrible, I think. And we are getting a 3-bet shove here. The problem with 3-bet shoving in here is that we are risking a ton of chips. We are like 35 big blinds deep. Or a bit more. So if opponent just about min raises and we shove, the risk to reward ratio is going to be pretty bad for our shove. But we are having enough chips to go for a smaller 3-bet. It could be also a flat. It can be a flat and it can be a small 3-bet, in my opinion. And when an opponent opens, I think the worst option is to fold and the next worst option is to shove. And this is slightly interesting with pocket deuces. Because I think that when I'm seeing that this fish king has opened every button, that is actually really good play if opponents are tight in the game. And I think that this could be a shove because it plays, its pre-flop equity is great, the post-flop playability is practically nil, and I think it's going to be profitable anyways against the loose opponent. And I think in this situation, calling is pretty much not the option. And Callion said that's stupid to 3-bet fold and not good enough to 3-bet call. I don't think that in general in these games you are getting 4-bet that often. And I think like this, when you are with pocket deuces, when you are calling, the problem with pocket deuces, I'm thinking about the way to visualize it. So the problem with pocket deuces, pocket deuces is that we are almost always on the flop. We are having showdown equity. But the problem is that we are about never having good equity. Like, if we are looking at the equity distribution on different flops, we are seeing that we are having, if we are simulating it, we are having about 50% equity. And when we are looking at the equity range, we are seeing why this hand sucks with the post-flop playability. The best possible hands for post-flop playability with 47% equity would be that we would be having 100% equity for 47% of the flops. It would be really easy to play that you are knowing that you are always having the nuts when you are. And the worst possible hand would be, with the post-flop playability, would be a hand that would have, on any flop, it would have always the 47% equity, because then it's, you'll never know what you are hitting. And these pocket deuces, the problem is that we are having some really good equity flops. Practically those good equity flops are going to be sets and the really low card flops. But the problem is that most of the flops we have absolutely no idea that where we are. We are getting hit with 3 overcards, we are having no draws, but we are still having equity against an opponent with overcards. And do we want to call on those flops that we are, or call 2 or 3 streets? I don't think so. It's going to be about the same, about the 35, or about the 30 and a bit more. And of course it gets better when we are hitting our set, or this is one of those spots that our equity is close to 100%, so it's just going to be easy to just get the money in. No style points awarded. And the opponent bets the flop but doesn't bet the turn, and that means that we are pretty much required to bet the river. And no style points awarded in here, so go for a bet size about, I think anything from 15,000 to 30,000 can be defended. And I think that's fine. We are getting a call from ace high. But I think this is a situation that calls for a bit of a special play. Special play in my opinion. Because of the absolutely no post-flop playability and good equity pre-flop. Against an aggressive opponent, of course. And we are having pocket kings. Now the fish king folds. That's the first one that I have seen. And I think that 6-3 off is going to be a decent raise fold in here. So just raise and fold if opponent gets back at you. And usually I'm really aggressive in these spots. And on small blind you like really need a reason to not to open. And Kauris, maybe I mean fold or set mine this deuces. I think you can set, actually, if you are looking at the situation, you are needing to pay 4,500 and you are still having over 100,000 left, so set mining that situation is actually pretty decent. And when you are set mining, you are knowing where you stand equity-wise. So set mining is actually okay. It might even be the best play. No, I think that shoving would be better. I think calling, it's not that horrible than it sounds at the first glance, because the stack sizes are deep enough. But I think I tried to explain why the post-flop playability is so bad in that situation, and why you should search for other options. And Kauris84's says that at set mining isn't good if opponent opens 100% of hands, no value when you hit often. It depends also, because if you are having pocket deuces and your opponent opens something like 50 to 60%, he's going to hit a lot of flops, and there are going to be some value in there as well. And as Calleon said, that when the BB has a nice shove stack, which is nice for the set mine plan. That's also true. I think it's going to be best to, in the situation, I'm still standing by what I'm saying, but I don't think that calling is that bad. It's also always nice when you are having a situation where almost all the options are good. And with ace-5 off, shoving is going to be perfectly fine. Again, a hand that plays post-flop pretty badly. And in here, as chip leader, like Jack-6 suited, I think it plays way worse than Queen-6 suited. And now you are clearly the chip leader. Your opponent doesn't like to fold against you, so this is a position to start pressuring your opponent and raise to 9,000. But you are hitting a flush draw. That's actually pretty fine. You are having a good equity on your Queen-6. Your stack sizes are quite large, so I think calling would be a good option here. You are hitting your flush, and I think you can bet here about half a pot. There are still decent hands for your opponent to call. It's either bet the turn or bet to river. I think betting the turn is fine, because there are also one spade hands that can call on that turn. How many hands do we have? Only 4 hands more. And we have used 24 minutes, I think, so I'm getting better at this Guerrilla thing. And this is a spot that I think min raise calling the big U Adrian would be a good option. And this is spot if he min raises, we can shove. Actually, even when he limps, we could shove, and it would be an easy option, and it would be pretty much guaranteed profit against this player. And I think checking in here isn't the optimal play. We should, when we are the biggest stack, we should use the biggest stack as our advantage. But we are hitting the sets always, so always hitting the sets is pretty nice. And hitting the full house, so just call and let the pot grow. And then the flush comes through. Actually, I think we can check this turn this time around, because we are not scared of anything, and it gets better if our opponent hits. And on the river, we can bet quite big. We have seen our opponent call with ace high when we have called and checked and bet the river, so bet somewhere around 12 to 15,000. And bet calling is perfect in here. Opponent had second nut flush. And I think that in that situation, pre-flop, you want to raise like pocket deuces to pocket sixes at least. You want to shove them, because those hands are having next to no post-flop playability. They are not good enough to be raise, or they are not good enough to be raise called, but they are having good pre-flop equity. And those are really hard hands to play post-flop with, even when you have position. And Kauris84's said that pocket 3 spot checking is the worst play. I disagree. We saw from the last games that one of the opponents folded his big blind, and folding the big blind is the worst play. But I think from the options usually chosen, checking is going to be the... It's going to be something that's not that good. I think aggressive options are a lot better in here. And do I think that the opponent overplayed his hand in this spot? I think the opponent thinks that his flush is strong enough, the way that the hand has gone through. I think for the opponent against the player that looks like Kauris in this game, or at least the stats and the plays we have seen, I think it would be better for opponent to be a bit greedier and go for a bet on the turn when he hits his flush. And go for a value there, because I think that there are players that are calling in a 3 flush situation still, when they are having just one club. And we are having really nice. And if this is a really nice situation for a heads up, we are having like 10 times more chips than our opponent, and we are getting a great hand at the start. So just shove it and run good. Whoop whoop. And you win the game. So that's how you win a 180 man. And I think in those situations, what I would improve the most on would be being aggressive enough when the game gets short-handed. I think you are missing a lot of equity in the spots that when the game gets short-handed, you are folding a lot from the button and from the small blind. And the more you are folding, the more the aggressive players are going to get your chips. So I think now it's time to announce the last spot for Guerrilla coaching tonight. So there is 11 minutes time to send me hand histories. There is... Or let's make it 6. Then we can start the... So 5 to 11 finish time. 5 minutes time more to send me more hand histories for today. And let's start by seeing what our list looks like when we are going back. So Kauris did get his coaching, so he's removed. And Rotman said that forget my ticket. I don't want it because I'm going to work at 6:45 tomorrow. How unfortunate for him. So there are still... And Marcus Y gets selected. We are doing it sometimes, some other time, because Marcus Y is playing 10 tables still. And I don't think that coaching would have that much... And when Kauris said that too honest play, and Kauris84's said that overall pretty nice play, try to focus on aggressive game lines and short-handed play. I think that there was like only one hand with when the game was 9-handed or 8-handed that we disagreed on, and that was the pocket 8s with about 20 big blinds when Kauris shoved it. But when it got short-handed, Kauris folded. I think in my opinion Kauris folded a lot of his equity away. And Marcus said that you can remove me from the list. Okay. Removed. And if you want to get in the list, I think Repo also sent me the message, so... Like my mobile phone is beeping all the time. So there's Repo also, and Repo is a blogger on our English site, so Repo gets some more more opportunities. And Kauris84 says, this 8th hand, I resort PD4 again because it says it's full or something. I'm pretty sure that I didn't understand what you are saying, so... But so we are having five options, 5 different hand histories that we can look through for the next. And there is still 3 minutes time to send me more. So if you want to send me hand histories for today's Guerrilla coaching, I'm going to copy paste the information on our chat. And please leave me feedback on this type of a coaching. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What can we do better next time? This is like quick fire coaching, as we are going pretty quick through the hands. And I'm thinking that if it's going to be an MTT that we are finished, we are probably going to concentrate on the late stages, because on MTTs the late stages are the stages where the money moves. Kaleon, in the Finnish army there is a saying that käsi pystyyn virheen merkiksi. So I got the idea today that when I thought about what should we do for the coaching today, and there was some added questions on let's do some hand history reviews, and I don't like the planning required for those, so let's try to do something different. And different we do. And Korpistur said that should I send €100 Omaha 6-max shootout hand histories? I already said that if you are sending me hand histories, please send me no limit hold'em tournament poker hand histories, because I pretty much suck at every other format of tournament poker. So, and pretty much I suck at any other form of poker as well, so don't send me Omaha hand histories. If you are sending me Omaha hand histories, I'm just going to say that, oh, these hand histories, these don't work, so we can't go through them. There was a mistake on some of those hand histories, like 4 cards per player, and that's insanity. But now it's going to be time. Let's see. We haven't had any new players entering our draw, so let's draw it. Let's draw the last player today. And it's going to be Neo1186. And Carousel999 is going to be the backup player if I can't get Neo's hand history to open. We are getting to the break, and we are coming back in about 2300 Finnish time, so about in 5 minutes.